Why is Star Wars such a great movie? Star Wars was released in May 1977, right after I graduated from high school. I went to see it the day it opened at the Uptown Theater in Washington, D.C. In those days, big movies did not open wide like now. Star Wars was exclusive to the Uptown, meaning that everyone in D.C. who wanted to see it had to go there. In fact, the Uptown was one of only 32 theaters in the whole country to have the movie. So looking back, I must have been among the first few thousand people ever to have seen it. Right from the beginning, I knew that the film was special. There had been very little like Star Wars when it appeared. There had been 2001, of course, which set the bar really high for what space films should look like, but Kubrick was not really making a popular entertainment, and besides, that movie was almost 10 years old in 1977. Star Trek was completely awesome, but was a low-budget production and was always inventing technology to explain away the budget. The main thing I wanted was scale. Television science fiction was always big on imagination, but small in size. There were no good special effects. Everything seemed cramped. Where was the vastness of space? Where was the reality, the physicality of the machines and the equipment that makes space travel possible? Where was the action? Star Wars delivered on both counts right in the first few minutes of the film. In fact, the first 2 minutes of Star Wars contain so much information, it's a bit overwhelming. At the time, it was all new, but even then, it also seemed oddly familiar, like I've come home to a place that I'd been before. First, there is the blast of music. You really jump, and then straight to the opening crawl. The crawl, the fact that there is a crawl, tells us that this is a serial, since clearly the crawl is meant to evoke Buck Rogers and other serials. But the way they do the crawl, with the type disappearing into the distance, was like nothing I'd ever seen before. Now it's cliché, but then, watching it on the Uptown's curved CinemaScope screen, it was almost distracting. You were watching the type recede into the distance, wondering when it would become illegible. The gap between paragraphs consistently fooled me. Just when you thought it was over, there was more. The type itself was a harbinger of the scale of the movie. It was brilliant. It didn't really matter what the words said, the look of the thing was magnificent. And of course, it didn't hurt that according to the crawl, the movie was beginning in the middle of an epic story of good versus evil, a story of truly galactic proportions. And to prove the point, the camera pans down to reveal occupying the entire bottom half of the screen the wide curvature of a planet and its moon. It's a beautiful image. And more importantly, it looks real. It takes more time to say what you feel about the image than it is on screen. Suffice it to say that at this point, barely 90 seconds into the movie, you know that you're into something that's going to be really good. Then the Rebel ship comes into the frame. But it looks different from other science fiction spaceships. For one thing, it's detailed. Unlike the Enterprise, there's no mystery about how it's propelled. There are 11 rockets strapped to this thing. It's clearly a mechanical contraption, which is a hallmark of the Star Wars aesthetic. Something off camera is firing at it, and then we see it. The reveal of the Star Destroyer is just genius. It's exactly right. And it sets the stage for everything we expect and get from the rest of the film. It happens at about a minute 40 seconds or so into the film, and it lasts for 13 seconds. That's about 13% of the entire film so far. Or if you leave out the crawl, almost 50% of the screen time devoted to live action. So here we get the other half of the Star Wars aesthetic, hyperbole. Star Wars was a movie about how the good guys have to fight bad guys with ships so big, it takes 13 seconds just to show them.